Our story about development policy doesn't start in Africa, but at a wellness hotel in the southern Burgenland in Austria.
When I am sad, I look at it, I imagine that I am having someone in my room. Yeah, so I feel good when I am with it. I like these things different. Yeah.
Faith is from Kenya. She has come to Austria for a 6-week trainee program at a hotel, some sort of taster course in gastronomy. Hotel owner Johann Habel covers a part of the costs for her training. Everything started at a fundraiser event in the previous year. Oma Obama, the Kenyan half-sister of the US president, was the guest of honor. On that evening, Austrians donated almost 30,000 euros for Oma's humanitarian fund, Sauti Kuu. The organization supports disadvantaged youngsters from Kenya, like Faith. After the trainee program in Austria, she will continue her apprenticeship in her homeland. Mr. Habel finances her scholarship.
My dream is that when I finish college, I get a job, I get my enough money, I help my family. Then if I have some enough money, it would help the poor, the orphans, because there are some orphans, they want a chance. Some of them, they pass exam well, but they don't have support, so they have to leave the school. Yeah. There is high much of prostitution because some ladies have children. The children want something to eat, to wear, to go to school, so they did that. I don't judge them, but poverty makes people do different things and funny things and bad things. Yeah.
We meet with Faith a few months after her stay at the Austrian luxury resort. Faith lives in a slum in Nairobi. She moved here from the countryside all by herself, looking for a better life than that of her parents. Her hut's size is just 4 square meters. Since her return from Europe, she looks at the world with different eyes.
The rich people don't want the poor people to reach their level. They want them to be aside. They seem that the poor people, they are not like them. They see that they are so special. The white people, they are good because they help us. They help Kenyan, African children, even if they don't know them, like Mr. Habel. Yeah, he helped me, but he don't know me. Yeah.
That's the vegetables.
I also benefited from Oma Obama's appearance at the event in our hotel. TV and newspapers covered it too. It was a give and take on several levels, and I like that. It's a fair trade. I like the thought that I can also benefit from supporting someone or something.
It's always about give and take. It would be unrealistic to think that people would do it out of pure altruism, but I'm fine with that.
Das ist unrealistisch, aber ich bin okay damit, dass es so ist.
Kenya is considered the economic motor of East Africa, but only few benefit from that. The international community wanted to diminish world poverty by 50% until 2015. But today, we're still far from the optimistic goals of UNO. Half of Nairobi's 4 million inhabitants live in the city's slums. So does Faith and the other young people who receive support from the Sauti Kuu Foundation.
As a group, we really care about each other and we learn to live with people in the society. Yeah.
For now, I know I'm a footballer. I can play football and I can sing. I've discovered who I am. I am somehow, I know I am a kind girl. That's what I know.
They are the determining factor in their future, that whatever circumstance they have can change, that they play a very big role in whatever happens in their lives. And Sauti Kuu can only support them to achieve that.
Together with this group of young people from Nairobi, we travel westwards to the Foundation's annual celebration, a ride of 8 hours. We pass many road construction sites and realize that Chinese companies took over Kenya's roadworks. Omar Obama greets her protégés in her home village, Alego. She knows each one of the young people and wants to make sure that they receive the same support that she received as a child. Thanks to the help from other countries, she was able to receive proper work training and learn to think with a critical mind. She was born when her father emigrated to the USA, thanks to a scholarship. Only after Omar's half-brother, Barack Obama, became world famous as President of the United States, the village of Alego received electric power and the roads were paved.
You know, like here, like all
Omar Obama received a scholarship too and went to Germany to study German and sociology there. In her life between cultures, the power of words play a crucial part.
We're skeptical about the expression development. You can't really call it development aid. What is the reason and the goal of this development? If you work together with the USA or Europe or China, it's not called development aid, but economic cooperation. Are trade relations between countries development aid? No, they're economic cooperation. It's all about strengthening our own economy.
Darum geht es letztendlich, dass unsere Wirtschaft wächst.
Others share her skepticism. The list of African intellectuals who consider development policy a farce is long. Economics expert James Shikwati lives in Nairobi. He made a name for himself internationally due to his claim to instantly put an end to development aid.
We tell the person who comes in the name of aid, stop lying to us, let's do business. You know, for me that is better, because then you know clearly this is what the partner wants, as opposed to somebody coming with a soft ball approach and say we're helping you, then eventually they're taking your wealth away. So if I give an example, Kenya has just discovered oil. Now if a country came here talking about aid, when in essence what they're looking for is contracts to get to the fields to mine oil. You see, they'll be really misusing the word aid.
James Shikwati sees the catastrophic state of the roads as a prime example for his theories. In regards to infrastructural projects, Kenya relied on the World Bank for a long time. When we look at this, it's hard to imagine where all those billions of supposed development aid went. The derelict rails from British colonial times were supposed to be replaced by a new railway. The government-run China Road and Bridge Corporation received the order.
Chinese are almost achieving more within just 4 years, you know, and World Bank has had 50 years. There must be question marks that was it really keen, genuine to transform Africa, or were they just here representing other people's interests?
China is unrivaled in regards to road construction in Africa. Chinese investments on the African continent have increased so much that the Western competition calls it neo-colonialism.
The Chinese don't have a colonial relationship with us. They're all about doing business. I wouldn't call this good or bad. They come and tell us what they want. And we tell them what we expect in return. Of course, they care for their own benefit, but this is how trade negotiation works.
Recently, Kenya green-lighted the start of a huge project. It will be Africa's biggest infrastructural project since the end of colonial times. For the so-called Lapset Corridor, a big harbour shall be built in Lamu, as well as train and road connections to Ethiopia, Uganda and southern Sudan, a region with a lot of natural resources. Work on the highways and airport has already begun. There will also be a refinery and pipelines. This 20 billion project will improve East Africa's goods and passenger traffic. The investors hope that they can secure their access to the oil fields. Chinese government-run companies already won the first tenders. Their hunger for natural resources is no secret.
We shouldn't give up our relations to the West and only care for China. Our well-being isn't in the focus there either, as the West also only cares for business. It's a business relation. We need to understand that. Our task is to tell them what we want. Sauti Kuu helps young people to realize their own worth and their capabilities, so that they're also able to compete.
Sasa nakwambia, haraka kimbia, uende shuleni.
Sauti Kuu means strong voice. Omar Obama's foundation teaches children to speak freely in front of people, either by reciting poems, taking part in a discussion, or just saying no. In Omar Obama's life, strengthening self-confidence was always an important issue.
I was taught to always be polite and respectful towards my parents or other grown-ups. I should never say no or fight against something, but I could ask why, and this forced them to answer me. It got on their nerves. My father used to say, "Why don't you just obey? Why do you always ask questions? You're a girl." And this irritated me. Because I was a girl, I shouldn't ask questions? This is how I learned that it's possible to fight for your own convictions so that people see you as a human being, not just a girl or a child, as rich or poor.
It's Kennedy's dream to go his own way, reject heteronomy, and one day take part in making the rules. 22-year-old Kennedy lives in Obama's village and learned from the Sauti Kuu Foundation to define his own future. He decided to study sociology and won a scholarship.
It is not whatever they decided that you want to do should be done. It's us that you are being approached, that now, here we are, we want to help you, but you'll tell us how you want to be helped. It's became very, very difficult. If you realize that most of these NGOs, they come with their own projects, then they fix you there. But here, you are the one who are being approached, whatever you want to be done for. It was very, very difficult. It gave us hard time to think of it. Yeah, and then that's the reason why some left the group. They couldn't make it. They were very impatient.
Too much aid can cause dependency and passiveness. Many only rely on the North's compassion in regards to solving social problems instead of asking local politicians to take care of it.
So immediately you talk about aid, you create a mentality of you are just helping. And you know, the natural tendency is that if somebody sees a helping hand, they'll always want to send another requisition the following year to be helped again. So they forget that they're wealthy. And that has been the impact of aid for the last 50 years, where you know, a rich continent has been characterized as a poor continent because of the misuse of the word aid and their relationship.
Kenya cares a lot for its natural resources. After agriculture, tourism is the second most important source of income. The country isn't as much dependent on international support as other poorer countries in Africa. This continent, with its endless resources, consists of 55 very different countries. But often, people talk about Africa as if it was one country instead of a continent. The same prejudice is still spread. Despite its economic growth during the recent years, Africa is still considered the epitome of hunger, poverty and war, a lost continent and a case for aid organizations. A Kenyan TV show parodies the hypocrisy of the do-gooders.
We mustn't lose sight of what is important here.
Saving Africa?
I don't know. I'm just me. I'm just a filmmaker in Africa.
Salim Kashafji is one of the producers of the successful Kenyan TV show Samaritans, that caricatures the internal proceedings of an NGO.
We had a screening at the United Nations 2 weeks ago. And at that screening, we had a standing ovation. People loved it. And I said, so, you know, what do you feel? He says, you know, we love your sarcasm. We love the way the show is funny and we love the way you play with comedy, but yeah, we know NGOs like that. So when we screen at other NGOs, they say the same thing. Oh, we know NGOs like that. So it seems to be a concurrent story.
Now, as your director, I'm here to make that difference, that change for Africa.
We do know that there are expats who come into the country to do work that a Kenyan could do. And we know this has happened. We don't know that it happens everywhere all the time. But again, it's to say, ask the question, think about it.
So I don't want you to see me as your boss, but as your partner. To build capacity.
NGO workers from rich countries are more and more often considered unfair competitors.
Together.
Rain on your parade, but I need to work.
I gained the same experience when I taught at university. I was paid by Kenya, and my colleague, whom I liked a lot, was paid by Germany. She earned 8 times more than me. How is this morally justifiable? What does this do to your motivation, your work ethics? I learned everything the hard way, just like the others. My work is equally good. I have the same qualifications. Still, people talk about equality and bringing the world closer together.
The Kenyan women's organization Groots hired a sociologist who is paid by the Austrian government.
My husband and I worked in Burundi before. When our time there came to an end, we discussed where we could go, and Kenya was a viable choice, because I was allowed to work there.
It's not as easy as before for foreign workers to get a work allowance in Kenya. Kenyans should take on sought-after jobs themselves.
It's a good progress in comparison to former times, but also compared to what I saw in Burundi. There, foreign help is gladly accepted because there are no alternatives. Here, people can choose what kind of help they want or say that they don't want it. I like that.
Among the UNO Millennium Goals are also children's rights, and equal opportunities for women. Initiatives like the women's organisation Groots or Sauti Ku that teach people emancipation instead of a beggar's mentality are expected to have a positive and lengthy effect.
Both boys and girls.
I only ask people to take a critical look at this kind of development aid. We must ask ourselves if all this support and money are spent well. And we also need to ask ourselves if there are other ways. This doesn't mean that people shouldn't donate anymore. Sauti Ku is dependent on donations too.
If we reverse that trend to say, let's invest in, let's say, Kenyans or Africans who come up with initiatives to solve their own challenges, that would be a better option as compared to somebody seated in Vienna in an air-conditioned office, just deciding this is what we're going to do to make things different in Africa. Somebody should just evaluate the what we call the Millennium Villages that was supposed to illustrate how effective the Millennium Goals can work if you pump in more money. And if you evaluate those villages and you get that they are successful, then you can say, let's continue giving aid as we have always done. The initiative of that.
The Millennium Villages are an experiment by US economics professor Jeffrey Sachs. He claims that he could eradicate world poverty in 20 years. We visit the project's starting point at the village of Sori in eastern Kenya. The villagers show us how their life has changed since the beginning of the project 15 years ago. Many people suffered from hunger. Today, some of the farmers can afford a solar panel. The crop yield has risen many times over. The community's granaries are filled. Life expectancy has risen. A hospital provides free medical care. Each inhabitant owns a net against mosquitoes. A new school was built. Cows provide the milk for the school children. The project was financed by the World Bank.
Many people have grown up believing that you can only exist as an African if there's aid. So stop aid puts that huge question mark that, really? You mean this can happen? So it leads to positive conversations, which leads to people saying, yeah, we can do enterprises. And then they start doing enterprises.
At the Millennium Village Sori, this year's aid project ends now, according to plan. But what now?
By this year, we enrolled five students.
To secondary school?
Yeah, to secondary school. And they are supposed to be there for 4 years. And the project is soon leaving. By next year, June, they are supposed to be leaving. Our worry is just how they'll be getting their school fees.
The solar system that is supposed to provide light is another downside of the project. It costs about $100. The farmer pays $40, and the Millennium Project covers the remaining $60 from taxpayers' money from all over the world. And this money goes to the American manufacturer. A so-called social entrepreneur makes millions from this.
It was difficult to get it, so I tried to sell my ndizi, my banana, to sell my cuckoo hens, so I got that.
He worked for a whole month to provide for the light. An abolition of the European Union's tariff walls for agricultural products from Africa would be more helpful than any development aid. Currently, the farmers are stuck with their harvest.
Because some buyers do come always once a week or once in 2 weeks. And they want to with a cheap price.
During the first 3 years, the villagers received an education in agricultural techniques and their seeds for free. After that, everyone had to manage by themselves.
Few people will continue with the program. That is what I say. A few people, not all of us. Yeah.
Why?
One thing we lack is that economic base. And all these things need money. Like when you want to do crops in the pots like this, these pots you have to buy them. Yeah, nobody gives you for free. You need like crops, you will need to buy crops, seeds to plant. That is money. So with less than $1, most people earning less than $1 in a day, then I think it's a big challenge.
John Ochido has the impression that the donor countries try to create new dependencies with the Millennium Project.
No, it shouldn't be stopped. Aid them, but let them know, teach them how whatever they have been aided on can be sustained so that in future they can do that thing themselves without any more aid.
Agricultural engineering companies like Monsanto benefit from the Millennium Projects. Hybrid and genetically enhanced seeds are promoted as hunger killers. Oma Obama and her employees want to take a look at the agricultural techniques of the Millennium Village and voice their concern.
But it's hybrid, so that means that it can only be planted once, and then the next season of planting you have to buy.
Yeah, you have to buy another one.
So what do you do if you don't have the money to buy?
It will force us because, you know, in this area you cannot just use the ordinary seeds.
But people are using it, people are planting.
You plant 3 packets of this one, you will get about 4-3 sacks. But if a local seed, you would get even
just
20 teams, even not a sack.
If you only work with genetically enhanced seeds and chemical fertilizers, the soil loses nutrients until it's ruined. In order to work sustainably, there should be other ways of growing. I invited them to take a look at things, how we manage at Sauti Kuu, and how we might work on a compromise.
There will be no problems if you give your love to me, baby.
The Sauti Kuu celebration in Alego is at full swing. The young people dance, while Oma Obama shows her grown-up guests ways of raising crops organically. Supporting eco-friendly and affordable ways of agricultural work are part of her project for strengthening autonomous self-determination on a local level. On our journey that began at a Burgenland village, we met people who distrust conventional development policy, but are very open to an exchange of knowledge and a support of education and training. After all, this is the foundation for sustainable development.